Another day of unimaginable tragedy in the English Channel as the despicable people smuggling gangs continue their brutal and soulless transportation of human beings, mostly young, male economic migrants, treating them like cattle and dangling the prospect of a life of crime in the UK. The heartless lefty organisations predictably and shamefully continue to blame the government for refusing to adopt a Labour-style open borders policy. Like Amnesty International's Steve Valdez-Simmons, who immediately used the human tragedy to advance his globalist position, deploying a press release claiming the Prime Minister's remarks this week about people escaping persecution somehow acting illegally or cheating the system are at the heart of this problem, showing how the government prefers to scapegoat desperate people rather than assist them. What a sick misrepresentation of what's going on. The only way to stop the deaths on the Channel is to stop the boats, making it clear to anyone willing to risk their life by boarding that they will be processed offshore, and therefore smashing the business model of the people smugglers. As the Home Secretary Suella Braverman made abundantly clear today, that's why breaking the stranglehold of the gangs enabling these crossings is the humane thing to do.
Mr. Speaker, these are the days that we dread. Crossing the Channel in unseaworthy vessels is a lethally dangerous endeavour. It is for this reason, above all, that we are working so hard to destroy the business model of the people smugglers, evil, organised criminals who treat human beings as cargo. As the Prime Minister told the House only yesterday, it is not cruel or unkind to want to break the stranglehold of the criminal gangs who trade in human misery and who exploit our system and our laws. He was right. This morning's tragedy, like the loss of 27 people on 1 November day last year, is the most sobering reminder possible of why we have to end these crossings.
The left will, as ever, attempt to exploit the tragedy to end any debate on the illegal migrant invasion of our southern border. Whereas I believe such a horrific event makes it even more important that minds are focused on what I declared to be a national emergency well over a year ago now. The pressure is now going on Prime Minister Sunak to be brave and bold like Churchill by leaving the ECHR, an organisation with a noble cause that has now been twisted to make control of our borders nigh on impossible.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the Second World War, Winston Churchill sent British Conservative lawyers to help to draft the European Convention on Human Rights, and that's something that we can be proud of in this country. But in an age of mass migration, the ECHR is now limiting our ability to control our borders. So in light of the tragedy in the Channel this morning, does the Prime Minister agree he should do as Churchill did, draft a new framework for refugees and human rights, including legal routes, but one way or another, and if necessary alone, we must be prepared to leave the ECHR?
Tory MP Danny Kruger there expressing the growing momentum within the Conservative Party to leave the ECHR. We know Suella wants to do it, and today Boris Johnson and Priti Patel both backed a 10-minute rule bill from ex-Tory Minister Jonathan Gullis to sideline ECHR when it comes to deportation flights to Rwanda. Now, ultimately, that bill was defeated in Parliament. However, MPs would be wise to remember that we ignored the ECHR when they wanted the UK to give the right to vote to convicted criminals in prison. And this afternoon, at the Joint Committee on Human Rights, Deputy PM Dominic Raab did reveal that Number 10 were keeping an open mind.
Your position on staying in the convention?
Well, look, the government's position is very clear. We rule nothing out. Nothing is off the table for the future. Depending on the situation we find ourselves in, give the ebb and flow of the approach Strasbourg has taken, I don't think it's responsible for the government to rule things out.
Leaving the ECHR may not be palatable to the woke mainstream media, but we must ignore them again to stop people smuggling gangs putting even more lives at risk.